Jesus walked into a quiet garden at the edge of the village, just as the morning sun touched the earth. The air was cool, and the ground still held the softness of the night. The garden was not beautiful yet. The soil was rough. Small stones were scattered across the ground. Dry weeds had grown in several places. Old roots were tangled beneath the surface. But Jesus looked at the empty garden with peace. He did not see only dry earth. He saw what the ground could become. He saw rows of green carrot tops moving gently in the wind. He saw orange roots growing deep beneath the soil. He saw food that could one day feed hungry people. Jesus knelt beside the garden bed and placed his hand on the ground. The soil was hard in some places. Carrots needed soft, loose earth so their roots could grow straight and strong. Jesus began by clearing the garden carefully. He picked up stones one by one and placed them in a small pile. He pulled away dry weeds and old roots. He removed anything that could block the carrots as they grew downward. A young boy stood near the fence and watched him. The boy had seen farmers work quickly before, but Jesus worked slowly and patiently. Jesus did not treat the soil as something useless. He treated it as something full of hidden promise. After clearing the surface, Jesus used his wooden tool to loosen the ground. He pushed the tool into the soil and lifted the earth gently. He turned the soil again and again. The hard ground began to break apart. Large clumps became smaller. The dry top layer mixed with the darker soil underneath. Jesus bent down and broke the remaining clumps with his hands. He made the soil fine, soft, and deep. The boy stepped closer. "Why do you spend so much time on the dirt?" the boy asked. Jesus looked at the garden and answered gently, "Because what grows below the surface needs room before it can become strong." The boy looked down at the soil. He had never thought about what happened beneath the ground. Jesus continued preparing the bed. He spread a thin layer of compost over the loosened soil. The compost was dark and rich. It smelled of earth, leaves, and life. Jesus mixed it carefully into the garden bed. He did not add too much. He gave the soil only what it needed. Then Jesus smoothed the surface with his hands. The rough patch of land began to look ready. It was no longer wild and tangled. It was prepared. It was open. It was waiting. Jesus took the basket of carrot seeds and held it carefully. The seeds were very small. They looked almost like tiny specks. The boy leaned forward and frowned. "These are so small," he said. Jesus smiled. "Yes," Jesus said, "but small things can carry a great harvest." Jesus made shallow lines in the soil with his finger. The rows were straight and gentle. He left space between each row so the plants would not crowd one another. Then Jesus began to sow the carrot seeds. He scattered them lightly along the rows. He did not bury them too deep. Carrot seeds needed to rest close enough to the surface to feel the warmth of the sun. Jesus covered them with a thin layer of soft soil. Then he pressed the earth gently with his palm. He wanted the seeds to touch the soil, but he did not crush them. After planting, Jesus lifted the clay jar of water. He poured the water slowly over the rows. The water fell like a quiet blessing. It darkened the soil and settled around the seeds. Nothing appeared above the ground. There were no green leaves. There were no orange carrots. There was only wet soil. But Jesus knew the growing had begun. Each morning after that, Jesus returned to the carrot bed. He checked the soil with his fingers. If it was dry, he watered it gently. If it was still damp, he waited. Jesus knew that too much water could drown the seeds. He also knew that too little water could keep them from waking. So he watched carefully. He gave the garden what it needed at the right time. For several days, the garden seemed unchanged. People passed by and saw only rows of soil. Some did not understand why Jesus kept returning to an empty garden. But Jesus kept caring for the seeds. He knew that hidden growth was still growth. He knew that roots often begin their work before anyone sees a leaf. One morning, tiny green lines appeared in the soil. The carrot seedlings had begun to rise. They were thin and delicate. They looked like little threads of life. Jesus knelt beside them with quiet joy. The boy ran to the garden and smiled. "They came up," he said. Jesus nodded. "Yes," Jesus said. "The seeds have answered the care they were given." From that day on, the work became more careful. Jesus watered around the seedlings gently. He did not pour too hard because the young plants were fragile. He removed weeds as soon as they appeared. The weeds grew quickly and tried to steal space, water, and sunlight. Jesus pulled them out by the roots. He cleared the soil around the carrots so the young plants could breathe. As the seedlings grew thicker, Jesus began to thin them. Some carrot plants were too close together. If they all stayed crowded, none of them would grow well. Jesus gently removed the weakest seedlings. He left space for the stronger ones to grow deep into the soil. The boy watched and looked confused. "Why remove some of them?" he asked. Jesus answered kindly. "Sometimes growth needs space. What is crowded cannot always become strong." The boy looked at the remaining carrot plants and understood a little more. Weeks passed. The green carrot tops grew taller. Their leaves became feathery and bright. They moved softly when the wind passed through the garden. But the most important part of the carrot was still hidden underground. Jesus kept caring for what he could not fully see. He loosened the soil around the rows. He kept the tops of the roots covered so they would not turn bitter from the sun. He watered deeply, helping the carrots grow downward. He checked the garden after hot afternoons. He protected the plants from dryness. He watched for insects and removed damaged leaves. Day after day, Jesus returned. He did not hurry the carrots. He did not pull them up too early. He let the roots grow in silence. The boy wanted to know when they would be ready. Jesus smiled and said, "A root becomes strong in hidden places." At last, one evening, Jesus saw that the carrot tops were full and strong. He brushed away a little soil near one plant. A bright orange shoulder appeared beneath the earth. The carrot was ready. Jesus held the green top firmly near the base. He loosened the soil around it. The boy gasped. All that was under the soil? Jesus held the carrot in his hands and smiled. "Yes," Jesus said, "much of the best growth happens where no one can see." Jesus harvested the carrots one by one. He shook off the loose soil. He placed them in a basket. Some were long, some were small, some were slightly curved, but every carrot had grown from a tiny seed. Jesus washed the carrots in clean water. Their orange color shone in the afternoon light. Then Jesus carried the basket into the village. He gave carrots to hungry children. He gave some to an elderly woman. He gave some to a tired family preparing their evening meal. The simple garden had become food. The tiny seeds had become a blessing. As the sun lowered behind the hills, Jesus returned to the garden. Some carrots were still growing. Some seedlings were still young. Some rows needed more water. The work was not finished. But Jesus was peaceful. He knew that planting required faith. He knew that caring required patience. He knew that harvest required time. That day, Jesus prepared the soil. Jesus sowed the seeds. Jesus watered, thinned, weeded, protected, and waited. And through the quiet work of growing carrots, Jesus showed that even hidden places can become fruitful when they are cared for with love.